Hey, David, what's up?
Hey, Gobi, how's it going?
Good, good, good. How's France?
Very nice. How's California?
California's good. LA's good. It's a little overcast. So, look, thanks for making the time. I think I kind of want to sort of encapsulate why you and I both came up with this idea of doing these videos because I think as of late, I'm realizing more and more that I have a craving to be of service and to help and to share and to continuously learn. And I think our dialogue together thus far has been very therapeutic for me. And I'm sure it's sort of been useful to you. So, it just seems logical for us to kind of try and maybe record some of our conversations and just share them and really, without any sort of a major expectation, just to put
No
it out there
pressure.
and see, if it could be of use to more than just us.
Sure, sure. Well, that's also the approach that I have for this. I mean, you came up with the idea of like, hey, why don't we start small? We've been talking about putting together for over a year now a channel where we'd have some people come and shrinks and therapists, light workers and whatnot. But it would take a little more work to assemble such a team, and I think you and I, could be a good starting point. It's always good to start small,
Yeah.
and yeah, the same for me. I mean, as you know, I've been sort of in introspection mode for 3 years ever since I decided to stop drinking, stop smoking, and stop destroying myself. And it's been quite a ride. And then eventually you get to a point where there's only so much soul searching that you can do on your own. At some point, I think that the key to feeling happy and connected is sharing with others and helping others. And I'm trying to become a coach after selling my IT business, and that's how you and I started. I mean, we just, I told you, listen, I'm trying to become a coach. So if you have any things you want to ask me, I'll be glad to use you as a guinea pig. But I think it's been more than, I don't think it's been like a coach and patient kind of or client kind of relationship. It's been just two guys sharing what they had in common. And actually, you've been of service to me as well because it's been therapeutic for me as well. So I guess yeah, today is probably just doing a little quick intro of how we came to do this as low key and low tech as this first call is. It is something, and it's the concrete materialization of us talking for over a year now. So yeah, let's see what comes up in the following weeks, and take it from there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I sort of wanted to mention that, I like everyone have grown up with experiences that were difficult, uh, hurtful, abuse, abandonment, a little bit of the potpourri of the what I would consider the negative experiences one can have as a child growing up. And although now after introspection, I'm grateful for a lot of it because it sort of forced me to uh, uh, explore in myself uh, some of my saboteur or destructive energy. I mean, I was a party animal, and numbing myself was a means of coping. And look, I'll have my occasional drink here and there, but I'm not at that point anymore where I want to anesthetize myself from feeling things. And uh, look, I'm 53, and I spent most of my life uh, belittling myself, playing small, and sort of marginalizing myself because of some old tapes that were playing in my head based on what I was told. And I've come to a point in my life where I realized that, look, all the things like The Secret, the Power of Intention, the you know, some of these concepts that would be considered kitschy or kind of quirky, they really work. And the more I focus, it's funny, I remember in The Secret he used to say, there was a line that said, be careful the song you sing to the universe, because the universe only listens to you and gives you back what you're putting out there. And for me, a good portion of my life was, I'm a victim. How come everyone takes advantage of me? I'm trying to be nice to everyone. How come no one will love me? I give and I give and I give and they take. Woe is me. You know, life is so difficult. I'm always sick. I've always dealt with issues and difficulties, and it took a long time for me to figure out. I continually perpetuated that same cycle because I kept with the same narrative. It's like these deep grooves in my brain from what I'd grown up with, from my abuse or abandonment. I defined myself by those. And I would continuously prove myself right by attracting more of the same, whether it was abusive relationships or abusive partnerships or what I call energy vampires. And look, at the end of the day, I'm really grateful I went through all those experiences, because now I'm in a place where I love myself more than I ever have, and I am sort of bewildered by the magic of living, of being, of growing, of even all the painful stuff now is more sort of I don't spend as much time trying to dissect or analyze it. I'm more sort of in an accepting place. Like, I've got some health issues that I'm dealing with, where before I was like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm this, that, the other. But now I understand that all of my disease is a function of my dis-ease. And that
dis-ease.
That I created and sort of brought all of this punishment into my life because I wasn't feeling worthy. And look, I'm going on. It feels like I've got so much I want to say, and I'll jump in and say
please go.
But look, I think what would be helpful for, look, it's kind of cool because we get to sort of use technology and we can have conversations, we can experience cathartic experiences. But maybe also this content that you and I are going to put together could be useful for other people, which would be fucking great for me. And hey, I'm going to say fuck every so often, so I apologize in advance.
You don't have to apologize to me. You know, I curse as much as the next one.
But
probably more than average, actually.
so you know what I think is going to be cool is us having a regular schedule where we deal with specific
themes
and tentpole ideas like relationships, like addiction, like death, children, friendships, boundaries. You know, there's so many of them that we can talk about, and I'm kind of excited to jump in and sort of get into it. So I'm going to share a little background. I mean, you know my background, so. And you do the same. Let's maybe that could be our kind of our intro. So I came up in sales from the age of 13. My first job was selling towels and sheets at the swap meet in Orange County with this Jewish guy on the weekend from New York that I learned so much from. And unfortunately, my mom and dad, neither one of them were really good business people, so I always had to kind of earn pocket money at a young age. And I came up as a salesman all the way up to, waiting tables, parking cars, bartending, and then eventually selling homes. And then I had a sort of a diametric shift when I met a aspiring filmmaker and fell in love with film and sort of fell out of love with her and found my passion at the age of 30. And by a strange chain of events, fell into producing gangster rap videos and ended up working with, the who's who in hip hop. My favorite being Tupac of all of them. But I mean, I've worked with everyone from Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails to Yoko Ono to Mary J. Blige, and I've really had a magical experience with my profession thus far. I will say that a lot of my old thinking, a lot of my self-limiting thinking from the past probably negatively affected my ascension into what I would call success, because at this stage I think I should have directed 6 or 8 Oscar-winning films, but that hasn't quite happened yet. But the beauty of it, and we'll talk about ayahuasca at some point too, because I had an amazing trip. There was a lady there, Esther, an old Jewish lady from New York. She was 81. And we'll talk about ayahuasca, but she said something magical to me. She said, Gobi, it's never too late. And she had said that at the age of 61, she was at a trade show and saw this family from Turkey that was selling pashmina scarves. And she was just, worked a regular job, and she was a buyer for this company and never really had achieved much. So she took the distributorship for this pashmina line of scarves, and within a year she had Sarah Jessica Parker and every top actress in New York and the Kardashians wearing her scarf, to the point where she sold her company. She gave $1 million away in cash, and she built 14 schools in a third world country. She said, Gobi, that all happened when I was 61. And she said, it's never too late. So I say all this to say that I still feel that I'm very young and can achieve everything that I want to, and I'm very grateful that all these sort of new understandings are coming into play now. So I'm very, very optimistic about the future. Your turn.
All right. Well, there's definitely a few things here that you said that really ticked with me, because there's, as you know, there's a lot of similarities between the two of us. I didn't know the story about you starting out in sales. The funny thing is, I started out in sales too, in a weird way. My parents had an Asian antique store, 2 of them actually, in Nice and Cannes in the south of France, and they would often go to these trade shows to essentially get more customers and so on. And while all the other kids, would spend their vacation playing with other kids and everything, I'd go to these trade shows with my parents, and they had a stock of kids' jewelry that they were selling wholesale, but they stopped that activity, so they had a whole pile of it. And one day I asked my dad, what are you doing with all that stuff? And he said, nothing. And he said, do you want to sell it? I said, sure. So I would spend my vacation, at 7 years old is when I started, going with them, and I would set up this tiny little booth inside their booth, and I would, literally grab people from the aisles. That's how shameless I was back then. And basically sell the kids' jewelry. Any grandmother with a grandkid that would walk by, I'd bring him over and I'd sell them this stuff. So that's actually also how I started. But then the confidence somehow went away in the teenage years. A lot of it is due to me, experimenting with all sorts of drugs, mostly marijuana and ecstasy and LSD as well. I don't regret any of it, because it did it changed me from a left brain person to a right brain person mostly. I mean, I already had, obviously genetically probably the potential there, uh, but in some weird combination of ways, it drove me slowly but surely into depression for almost 20 years actually. From when I went to New York to study at NYU, first 2 years were great, and after I broke up with my first love, that with the combination of abuse really gradually sent me into depression. But I didn't know that I was depressed. I still managed to get a job, but everything, very similar to you, everything was small scale, playing it safe. Having a very old father who had me when he was 56. Also, I knew he wasn't going to be around for a very long time. He died when I was 26. Also forced me to, become very responsible early on, because I knew I'd have to be on my own early on. And as it turns out, it did happen that way. So the whole time, for all these years, like playing it small, I went into IT, first web design and then web development for close to 20 years. Had my own business, was very successful at it, not millionaire successful, but successful enough that I was able to have a family and provide for them, no problem, have my own apartment. But then it just got worse and worse. The more I was succeeding in that, the unhappier I was. And it just got to the point where I was smoking 2 packs a day, drinking at least a bottle, if not 2 bottles of wine every night, plus the smoking weed, which was 3 to 4 joints a day on average. And at some point in 2014, I was like, I really felt like I was going to die. Like literally, physically, I was setting myself up for cancer or something. That's how it felt. I don't know if it was true. So one day my wife says to me, you keep telling me you're bored at work, you don't want to do this anymore. Why don't you take a break? And I've got to thank my wife for this, because she's the one, that sparked me into this. And so since 2014, I've been essentially doing nothing. Well, nothing is not exactly it, but doing nothing on the outside. Everything's been about inner work. So like you, I've done ayahuasca. I started hiring a sports coach. I went to see a shrink. I hired a spiritual coach that got me into meditation. And eventually the addictions, I wouldn't say the addictions went away, because I still love drinking. I still love getting stoned once in a while. And the approach that I chose was not, because I tried quitting all these things many times before, always relapsed, always, and it would be an all or nothing situation where you're either super healthy and you're doing all the right things, or you're this kind of like piece of trash kind of thing. And finally I got to the point where there was a breakthrough, and that will actually be the tagline for my coaching, which is give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to do whatever the fuck you want, you want to really do. And if you don't want to quit entirely, don't. And the addiction is not the problem. The abuse is the problem. When you start adopting all the right things, working out, for me it's working out, running, yoga, meditation, I like to play tennis as well, then inevitably what happens is all the addictive behaviors or the abused behavior kind of just, I wouldn't say disappear, but it regulates itself. But it's really a matter of being in line with who you are, rather than fighting these things. And if you enjoy drinking, you're always going to enjoy drinking. If you enjoy smoking, you're always going to enjoy smoking. The smoking cigarettes, I quit altogether. I went to a vaporizer instead. But I think, and that goes back to what you're saying about the law of attraction. The law of attraction isn't like, you sit down and these checks are going to come in the mail like you see in some of these, promotional videos, which is ridiculous. The law of attraction is whatever permission and love you give to yourself, the universe is going to reflect that on the outside, and then all these quote unquote random events are going to start happening. And I think that's what it's really about. It's about allowing yourself to receive. It's about finding, that kindness for yourself at first, which naturally will expand to others, and just, letting it flow from the inside outside. And once you're able to do that inside work and give yourself permission, then everything else becomes possible. So that's, that's what I want to say that really kind of resonates with what you were saying as well.
Cool. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Well, I see we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna have to focus probably.
That's fine. That's fine. But look, let's do this. Let's just leave that for our first intro, and then I think that at least gives us and everyone an opportunity to kind of get a little bit of a backstory, and then we can explore from there.
Yep.
All right.
Sounds good.